All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third mental performance training video of this Milwaukee Sting volleyball season. For the month of February, we will be talking about getting in the flow. So, quick recap as always, in December, we talked about the mindset of team first and me second. We want to be working towards the same goals as our team at all times with our same motivations in mind as our teammates have. Okay to set personal goals, definitely encourage it, but remember that everything we work on is to build a championship team at the end of the season. In January, we talked about building a game day mentality going into some of these bigger tournaments. So preparing for game day, mentally, the same effort as we do physically, and reflecting on why we will succeed that day as opposed to giving in to some of our anxious thoughts. So for February, I want to talk about the concept of flow, which is really great and kind of what we want to achieve as we go into my favorite season of the year, qualifier season. So this is what athletes call being in a flow state. And I will explain this chart as we kind of go through it. So um, we are kind of constantly comparing our skills to the challenge at hand. And it's really what we think of our skills and what we think of the challenge at hand. It's kind of all in our head. We feel anxiety as athletes when we think the challenge is too great for our skills. So when our skill level feels low, but the challenge is high, that's when we get into this anxiety area. So if you guys go into a match and you're watching another team warm up and you think they're really big and they hit really high, we're thinking we're not good enough for that challenge. That's when we start to feel anxious. Boredom is when we think our skills, keyword is think, when we think our skills are actually too high for the challenge at place and we start to get distracted and bored. So, like really long practices or drills we're not interested in, slow matches. Either way, we're not really putting our best effort forward because we think we don't really need to. The flow state is saying to ourselves, we can complete any challenge if we think our skills match them. Even in a drill or practice that we're kind of having a hard time, giving full effort to do the maximum to compete is great. And even if we think another team is really good, continuing to feel confident in ourselves kind of puts us in this flow state. So we're going to talk about different ways for us to get in this flow state so you guys can feel this way as you go through the next month or so of the season. So instead of activities for this video, I just want you guys to take notes, to take things from the video. So if you're watching as a team or individually, take out your pen and your paper or your phone or whatever you're using to take notes. We're going to talk about how we're going to actually work on using body language to achieve flow and get in these points at tournaments and practices where we're feeling like whatever challenge is ahead of us, we can match it with our energy and our effort and our skill. So anxiety can often affect our body language in different ways, but I do think one of the biggest ones is causing us to look around at a lot of things out of our control. So when we feel anxious, we feel like we can't rise up to the challenge. Our eyes are always on things that maybe are we're trying to like distract ourselves or get help from things, etc. So if we're looking at our parents, if we're looking at the other team a lot, if we're scoreboard watching, those are signs of typically feeling anxious because we are looking at things that can kind of dissociate a little bit. And so what I want you guys to do and take note of this is focusing our energy and our body language on things that actually make us feel confident. And so big one is making eye contact with our teammates. That is like connection is great, gives us confidence, reminds us of what we're doing. We have people around us that have our back, super important. The next one would be giving high fives. That's a really great way to eliminate anxiety, making connections that way. Physical energy kind of takes us away from our anxiety, super helpful. And then reading what's going on the other side of the court. So I know I mentioned watching the other team can give us anxiety. I think if we're watching them to be like, oh my gosh, they look like they're doing really well right now and they're in a flow, um, if we're doing too much of that, that's going to make us feel bad. But if we're actually watching just to see what's going on and kind of naming that to be like, oh, they're running the outside a lot, I'm going to work faster. Those are the things that eliminate our anxiety and help us feel like we're more in control. So take notes of these, practice these at practice. This is going to help us take us from that anxiety point to our flow state instead. Now, on the other side of that chart was the boredom side of flow. Boredom kind of similarly can make us feel really distracted and look around the gym at things that aren't actually helping us succeed. Sing Center can get kind of crazy at times. I think when we're bored and we're not really focused and locked in, we look at other teams at practice. We look at our teammates that aren't in drills or teammates that are in drills and we're distracting each other. We're looking around at other courts when we're in tournaments. We could do this when we're anxious too, but I think when we're bored and we don't think we need to work as hard to win really consistently, then that kind of takes away from our flow state too. So one of the biggest things I'll tell athletes is finding a reset point in the gym that will remind us to refocus on things that are actually making us better, even when we're bored. So that could just be simply like if you feel yourself get distracted, turn and look at a teammate that seems really locked in, that can help. Find a spot on the court to be like, when I look at the spot, that's my reminder, lock back in, something on the wall, anything that's going to reset you. Don't let yourself feel distracted. Just tell yourself you're doing it, get out of the boredom spot and get kind of back in the flow state. One more thing I want to mention with this, I was watching some highlights after the Super Bowl this year, and there was a video of Saquon Barkley walking up and down the sideline, telling his teammates over and over again, we need to stay here. He kept saying, we need to stay here. They were up by multiple scores, 20 plus points. If they were in the boredom spot, they might have taken their foot off the gas. Who knows what had happened? Chiefs could have come back a little bit. If they were anxious because they were so excited to win, they could have taken away from it. He was saying their body language needs to be here, consistent, really up. So it's a really good thing to remember. All right, how do we continue this throughout the year? So February is a really great time to stay focused and motivated on season goals and daily practices and be in flow as much as possible. Really, because we are stepping into what not what I call, it's really what it is, qualifier season. Hello, qualifier season. My favorite time of the year. It's when we're the most competitive. We're earning the bid to accomplish our long-term season goal of winning championships. So eliminating the anxiety and the boredom from our heads puts us in the flow state, and that's going to help us so much when qualifier season. It's super important. So how do we do this other than the stuff I've mentioned? Make sure you check in with yourself after practices. How often do you feel like you were in flow? Were you bored at all? Were you anxious? Kind of just checking in, tracking those things, see if we can get in flow a little bit more often. Practice how to reset back to the middle, kind of have that visual in your head to be like, how do I get back here? What are some things to do if I feel anxious or bored? Which is kind of focusing on body language. And then knowing that good body language is contagious. Some of my favorite teammates I played with either were like the really good, like loud, encouraging, always have my back teammates, or the ones that just never looked wavered. They never wavered in how they looked on the court. They always looked like they were super confident. That was contagious to me. That made me feel better. So that's a good reminder. If you're feeling a type of way, your teammates are feeling a type of way, be the person that's going to step up and have really good, confident body language. All right, quick little summary. Flow is when we think our skill matches the challenge ahead of us. That's something we can always control in our heads. That's our perception. That's what we think about it. Make sure we're using our body language and our focus points in the gym to achieve flow in practices and matches. And be a leader. Demonstrate flow body language. Demonstrate confidence. Demonstrate that no matter what the challenge is, good or bad, you are going to look like the confident person that's going to get it done, no matter what you're doing. As always, let's go get it. I'm excited for you guys entering this season of the year. End of February, post President's Day weekend, going into qualifiers. It's an awesome time in the year. As always, reach out to me if you guys need anything, and go Sting.